Hi everyone, and welcome to episode number 4 of Ask an Adaptive Horseback Riding Instructor. My name is Saber Popoli, and I am the owner and founder of Hoof Falls and Footfalls. I am also a certified Path International Advanced Therapeutic Riding Instructor, certified equine specialist in mental health and learning, and also have a few other formal certifications. You can learn more about me and everything that I offer through Hoof Falls and Footfalls on my website, hooffallsandfootfalls.com, and be sure to check out my YouTube channel, Facebook page, and my podcast station that is available for streaming on Spotify and several other streaming podcast station things. It's new to me, so I'm learning all the terminology for podcasting. All right, so let's take a look at question number 4. So question number 4 was submitted by a fellow instructor, and their question is, what do you do with horses nibbling at volunteers? I told one of the volunteers about space and boundaries and to also put her elbow up, or that she could also take the flat part of her hand and just gently push the horse's face away. Any other thoughts? All right, so horses nibbling at volunteers, very, very common situation, problem that we see at a lot of adaptive therapeutic riding barns, programs, both large and small, very common. So there's a few things that kind of come to mind immediately when talking about this subject. I've got a couple blog posts on this. It's called Naughty Horses, so check that out on my website. There's blog posts on that, and it goes even deeper into some of the things that our horses are doing that may be seen as naughty and what might be the root cause. But my first question on this question would be, where is it happening? So it's obviously with a horse leader, and it's a volunteer. So it could be happening at the mounting area. It could be happening while they're tightening the girth. It could be happening while the student's on. Kind of depends. There's a few things that might be the root cause of this. One, I would check tack fit. That's usually number one thing that I recommend people do. So is your tack and your equipment fitting the horse appropriately, or are they uncomfortable and they are trying to communicate to you that something is uncomfortable about the situation that they're in? Remember, they really don't have words to verbally communicate with us, so their actions and their nonverbal and sometimes physical body language, so to speak, really tell us how they're feeling and that something is not quite right. So first thing, check and make sure your tack and equipment is fitting appropriately. Second thing would be is to check any of the other situational factors. So the rider, what is that volunteer doing in that moment? Are they choked up on the lead rope? Are they really in that horse's bubble? Are they playing with the horse's face and kind of asking the horse to nibble on them? What is that volunteer doing? What is the rider doing? Is the rider's heel maybe unknowingly digging into that horse's side? Are they pulling on the horse's face on the reins? Are they really off balance? If they're sidewalkers and it's actually happening during a class, is the sidewalker maybe leaning on the horse, or are they bumping into the horse's stomach as they're walking along? So there's tons of external environmental factors that could be causing the horse to nibble as well. If the nibbling is taking place outside of class, so when they're just kind of getting the horse ready, when they're standing there and they're waiting for their student and they're just nibbling, I would recommend that you do a massive overhaul training. I know it sounds horrible, but it really does work. A massive overhaul training on respecting horses and their boundaries and consistently reinforcing behavior expectations for your equines. Because sometimes those horses nibbling at the volunteers, if you've ruled out being uncomfortable, and inappropriate fitting tack, and all of those other environmental factors, and it's more of a behavioral thing, it could be that your horse has been allowed to do it or maybe even encouraged to do it. I know I've personally seen volunteers or even instructors, hand feed horses treats, or they walk up and they start playing with the horse's mouth, or they're, poking at the horse's face or eye or playing with their ear. I don't know. They do tons of different things because they just want to love and hug on these wonderful horses. which is great. But then that can lead into the horse having some less than desirable behaviors like nibbling. So when you are at a larger volume program that has not only the instructor and the students, but you're also throwing into the mix all of these volunteers and you're adding different hands on these horses, sometimes you have to go to rules with your horses that set them up for success across the board. And one of those rules that I've had great success with when I am at a program or situation that is beyond just like me and my student and the horse, but there's other people involved, is that we have very strict bubbles for the humans, the horses, and also we really emphasize respect for the horse. So we did a massive overhaul training of not touching the horse's face, and that includes not playing with their lips or letting the horses bite on your clothing or pick on your clothing, no matter how cute that looks. So that's part of that training, is really making your volunteers and your instructors and your students and even the parents and all the visitors on site. It's a lot of work, but once you do it and you get it implemented, it's worth it. Once all those people are aware of the fact that every interaction you have with a horse can either reinforce good behavior or bad behavior, it really helps. So I would check TAC, check environmental situations like what the volunteer is doing, are they hanging on the lead rope, what's the rider doing, all of those factors, and then take a look at how your horses are consistently handled and allowed to behave on a consistent daily basis. And is there something that you are allowing your horse to do that you don't like them actually doing? Unfortunately, this is something that needs to be a pretty much blanket thing across the board. You can't just have, 5 people who constantly handle the horse and they really respect the horse. They don't allow the horse to nibble or pick at clothing or rub their head on you or do anything like that. But then if the other 20, 30 people that interact with the horse allow it to do it, that's sending really confusing and inconsistent messages to that horse on what it is or is not allowed to do. So if it is a behavioral rooted kind of thing and a habit that your horse is doing it and that they think it's okay to do because you've allowed them to do it, again, your horse isn't doing it just to be bad or just to be naughty, and they know that it is frustrating when they nibble at you. They're doing it because they don't know any better and they haven't been taught to do so. That's just how they're communicating with you. Make sure you train every person who's handling that horse. Make sure it is a barn and a facility rule that we don't allow our horses to nibble clothing, nibble fingers. They need to respect your space. And also, when the horse goes to move away from you, and let's say, for example, that horse is standing by you, they put their head over the stall, you go to pet them, they put their head back, honor that no thank you from the horse, and don't reach your hand in and try to go harass the horse and pet their face. Or when you're tacking a horse up and you're waiting then for class to start and that horse is standing next to you, you go to touch them and it kind of shifts away from you and says no thank you, then honor that horse telling you no thank you, I don't want personal touch right now. These horses in our adaptive riding programs, hippotherapy, equine assisted learning, all of those programs, these horses have so many people and things and touching on a daily basis that goes above and beyond regular personally owned horses or even horses that do traditional lessons. So we need to recognize that and honor our horses in that aspect and understand that they may not be okay with touch all the time. Another blog that came to mind too is that you might want to check out the blog on cute horse behaviors that can go bad. So that's another one that kind of talks about these behaviors that we allow in our horses that we think are cute that then have this domino effect into creating naughty or undesirable behaviors like nibbling. So I hope that was some helpful information on this topic of horse nibbling at volunteers. I think the original submitter had a great talk with their volunteer about space and boundaries and a couple options they could do, but it's definitely more than just a you and a them situation. It needs to be across the board and consistently implemented with all of your horses on a daily basis. So good luck with that. If you have any questions that you would like to be discussed or submitted and talked about on the Ask an Adaptive Horseback Riding Instructor episodes that we're doing now, go ahead and you can submit them to my email, saber.p@hooffallsandfootfalls.com. You can also submit them to my Facebook page via Messenger. You can comment on any of the posts with questions that you have. And I look forward to hearing more questions from you guys, because if you have a question, more than likely several other instructors in our industry also have that same question.